Hello everyone and welcome to this special edition of Motown Exile. Hopefully we can keep the show running this time. My name's Ryan Relkin, I'm your host. This is a fun little special endeavor that I started right around Christmas time. We've had almost 30,000 views so far. I want to thank everybody who has been taking the time to look at what I've been putting out there. I know some of it isn't great. I'm brand new at this format, so everything I do is almost always for the first time, but I'm going to keep trying, keep working at it. It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing right now, and it's a great chance for me to talk and connect with people who share a passion for Detroit sports. So a little background about why we're doing this show, why I'm doing Motown Exile, and what the exile part means. So basically the show is dedicated to people who are from out of the state of Michigan, who grew up in Michigan, have connections to Michigan, maybe you spent your summers in Michigan. I personally grew up in Port Huron, Michigan, and I moved away when I was 23 and I went to college at Arizona State University and then moved on to the state of Oregon, then back to Michigan, and then 6 years ago I ended up back here in Arizona, and I love it. I know a lot of you guys are at that point right now where you're struggling with the winter blues, and it was 80 degrees and sunny. I went to a spring training baseball game today. I mean, life couldn't really get much better than it is right now. But I just want to say thank you again for tuning in and give you a little bit of a background of what we're about. If you're tuning in for the first time, thank you for joining us. If you do like what you see here on the show, please smash that like button and please subscribe. Our goal is to get to 100 subscribers by April the 1st. So we're going to start out with a little bit of hockey here today on our live stream broadcast. And we're going to start by congratulating Team USA on their gold medal performance today in Italy, beating the Canadian team 2-1 in overtime. Jack Hughes, the game-winning goal, assisted by Zach Werenski. Connor Hellebuyck was the goaltender. He was fantastic. Also on the ice at the time of the game-winning goal was our very own captain of the Detroit Red Wings, Waterford, Michigan's own Dylan Larkin. Very interesting fact, every player on the ice when that game-winning goal was scored has a connection to the state of Michigan, which is, I think, kind of unusual. Three of the guys were all born in Michigan. Connor Hellebuyck is born in Grosse Pointe. Jack Hughes was born actually, Jack Hughes went to the University of Michigan. Dylan Larkin, born in Waterford, and Zach Werenski, I believe Grosse Pointe. I apologize if I get that wrong, but all connected to the state of Michigan. So proud day for the United States of America. Also a proud day for the state of Michigan and all hockey fans everywhere. And just a bonus out there too, I just want to say congratulations to the ladies too. Team USA's women only allowed 2 goals the entire tournament. That is absurd. Great job, ladies, and getting your gold medal as well a few days ago. Just a banner last week for Team USA in the sport of ice hockey, both on the men's side and on the women's side. So the other part of our show today that we're going to discuss is we're going to talk a little bit about the Detroit Lions offseason. Now, the Lions offseason has been a hot topic since basically the last second ticked off the clock at Soldier Field for the Lions in their final game in Week 17. So we've all been thinking about it. We've all been talking about it. I've done a few shows here talking about the draft, talking about Brad Holmes, trying to kind of, I don't know, in a way it was probably therapy for me because I was so disappointed in the past season and the results on the field and the team just basically underachieving what they're capable of. But I've come around now and I'm a little bit better and I'm excited for the offseason and all of the changes that I expect are going to come for the Lions. I think there's going to be some major changes for Detroit. But when I was planning this show today, I was thinking about what's a direction I can go with this that's different than what anyone else has already done. And I thought about all kinds of things. I thought about see if I could get a guest on here to talk with me, seeing if I could come up and spend time doing my own selections, playing Brad Holmes, which is something I might actually do down the road. But for the sake of this episode, what I decided to do actually was to try using technology to predict what it thinks the Lions will do, what Brad Holmes and the Lions will do in the offseason. Now, there's controversy around artificial intelligence. I know that. I understand it. I mean, I grew up on the Terminator. Come on. so so I understand what it means to I understand what it means to. Sorry, neighbors are going into their house and their door outside. It's really close to where my computer is. I understand what it's like. I grew up on the Terminator. I mean, we all were in fear of Cybernet taking over and ending the world. But for the sake of this, I think that AI can be a useful tool, especially when it comes to trying to research something that can take hours and hours to research. So I asked AI, I used ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT to predict, based on what it knows now, what it thinks the Lions will do this offseason. And it had some interesting information. Some of it I liked, some of it I hope that there's more, but I'll share that with you now. And I'm going to kind of go in a chronological order, and kind of the order things need to happen in order for the offseason to manifest the way that we want it for the Lions. So the first thing that it said needed to happen is that it predicts that the Lions are going to try to create cap space. We've been talking about that. I've heard it and read it for weeks now that the Lions are going to need to restructure some contracts. ChatGPT says that the Lions are going to restructure Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Penei Sewell. It also predicts that they're going to cut Graham Glasgow and that Taylor Decker's decision is going to weigh in as well. Now, if he retires, that's one thing. I don't know the math specifically on that. If he doesn't retire and the Lions decide that they can't rework his contract, then he would have some money. There would be some dead cap money, but it would also save the Lions about $8 million in cap space. So that will be an interesting plot to watch play out over the course of the offseason. So that's how they create the cap space according to AI. It then addressed what it feels is the Lions' biggest need, and I was actually impressed by this. And it focused in on the Lions' need to start by solidifying the center position. And I don't think there's anybody who would disagree with that. And it talks about how Frank Ragnow's retirement really set the team backwards. I watched all season just like you guys, and I got to tell you, I can't believe Jared Goff had the year that he had with that kind of protection or lack thereof up the middle. I mean, Graham Glasgow, God love him, he was supposed to be a depth piece, and if he was going to start, I think they would have preferred that he start at guard. That isn't the way things played out, so that's basically what ended up happening, and they were a lot weaker for it. But Graham looks like he's kind of at the end of his career. And if he wants to play somewhere else, I think he's going to have to finish his career with another team if he wants to keep playing, because I don't think that the Lions can afford to keep him around anymore in order to move to the next level what they need to do. So Graham Glasgow really struggled, and they also point out that there are a lack of plug-and-play options at center. There's not very many. First person that comes to my mind is Pat Coogan, who was on the national championship Indiana Hoosiers team. He also played at Notre Dame. He's a guy that looks like he kind of fits that kneecap-biting style that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell love. But who knows who's going to be available. And the Combine is coming up soon, and that's going to really help determine the pecking order. Who are the players that are going to be the most highly anticipated? Who's going to go early? Who's going to go late? There will definitely be some shuffling as that goes, because somebody's going to run a record time or jump a record jump, and that's going to move up their draft stock. Do I agree with that? I don't know. I don't know enough to say whether I do or don't, but I do know that's going to happen. So that's how they create the cap space. Then starting with addressing the need at center, AI predicts that the Lions are going to sign center Cade Mays. Cade Mays played the last few years, was the center for the Carolina Panthers. He's an unrestricted free agent. It does also say that another player that the Lions could go after is Tyler Linderbaum. I would be happy with Cade Mays. I do, however, think that the Lions are going to go after Linderbaum. Linderbaum checks so many boxes that he would be an instant hit, and he would be in Detroit for the next 8 to 10 years. He's 25 years old. He comes from a system that puts a lot of emphasis on the running game. The Lions are going to want to get back to that running game, get back to that aggressive, violent style of play on offense, setting up the play action, and I think that Linderbaum would be a good choice. But Cade Mays would be an an infinite improvement from Graham Glasgow. So AI predicts that they're going to sign Cade Mays. AI also predicts that another free agent move they're going to make is they're going to sign Joey Bosa. Now, Joey Bosa would definitely be an upgrade. He would provide a piece on the opposite edge to Aidan Hutchinson, and it would help the Lions. It would be an improvement. Now, is it the splash that everybody wants? No. If you're like me and it's not your money and you don't know all of the ins and outs of the salary cap and you think it's win or nothing else, which I actually kind of do think that going into this season, I think this is a huge opportunity for the Lions, then you want Max Crosby. You want that trade. And that may still happen. But AI, I thought, did a nice job of recognizing through its research that Brad Holmes has been conservative when it comes to free agent moves and with trades. He hasn't done a lot except for in the draft. So I think that for now, AI says it's more likely that they're going to sign Joey Bosa. It also says that we're going to re-sign El-Quadin Muhammad, which I wouldn't be against. I mean, the guy had 11 sacks last year, and when you think about a three-headed monster of El-Quadin Muhammad, Joey Bosa, and Aidan Hutchinson, that's not terrible. I mean, that could be okay. It would definitely be an improvement. Now, I do have some criticism of El-Quadin Muhammad, only that the guy did have 11 sacks, but he seemed to get a lot of sacks in junk time. I mean, it wasn't like, and he would get them in bunches, and he would get them against, backup players or in games where the outcome was already settled. That said, I mean, the guy got 11 sacks in the NFL. I can't take that away from him, and I think that he is, if you think about it, a great example of Lions coaching. I think the Lions took a guy who was a journeyman and hadn't really done a lot in his career, and he had a career high in sacks. So that's pretty good. But AI says they're going to re-sign El-Quadin Muhammad. It says that they're going to add a veteran swing tackle. It doesn't name a name. I know Pipkins, who is a unrestricted free agent from the Los Angeles Chargers, is somebody that I discussed in one of my Motown Minutes as a guy who could potentially come to the Lions. We'll see what happens there. And then again, of course, as I mentioned at the top of the segment, they're going to sign Cade Mays from the Carolina Panthers. So that's the free agent moves. We've talked about the cap. We've talked about the need to solidify the line through the center position. And the last part of it is our draft and our summary. So it has a couple of scenarios. It says that the Lions, if they keep their pick, if they stand pat, and they have the 17th pick in the first round, that they're likely going to take an offensive tackle or an edge rusher. That depends on who the best player available is. And we know that the Lions have a very meticulous scouting process. And so Brad Holmes is going to trust his data, and he has shown us that that's what he does. He does not deviate from that. He does not care what the pundits say. He wants us to be happy as fans, and at the same time, he's not going to let our noise influence what he does. So if there's a player that Brad likes, if he's a player that's on their list of players who are available, then yeah, I think they could go with the edge or could go with a tackle. They could also go with a guard. I mean, I won't be surprised if they go with a cornerback. Pay attention to what's going on with Kirby Joseph as well. I mean, safety definitely is there, and there are some decent safeties in this year's draft. So the jury's out on where the Lions are going to go. They could go in a lot of places. We're going to address that more here on Motown Exile coming up in future shows and broadcasts, but it's going to be interesting to see what actually happens. They do also mention the idea that the Lions could trade down for an extra day 2 pick. If you've forgotten, the Lions do not have a third-round pick. They used their third-round pick this year in a trade to move up and to get Isaac Tesla. So that was a questionable trade at the time. I think Tesla is going to be a great player, and I think that Brad nailed it in that regard. And I think that all of us will forget about that trade when he scores a huge touchdown in a crucial moment, in a huge game, and he'll be loved forever. So Isaac Tesla was that pick with that third-round pick. Lions could be looking to add more depth. Also, don't sleep on the fact that Brad has shown despite his conservativeness in free agency and in trades, Brad has shown some aggressiveness in trading up. Remember, he traded up to draft an injured Jameson Williams in his first draft, and he traded up to get Isaac Tesla. I just talked about that. He is not afraid, if there's a player that he likes, to go up and get him. So while we're talking about trading down and adding more depth in terms of picks in this year's draft, don't be surprised if there's a guy that he sees there who's 3-4 picks up and who he thinks may not make it to the Lions pick at 17. Don't be surprised if he trades up. I mean, that's one thing I will say. Brad has a lot of confidence in their scouting at the college level, and I think that I won't be surprised if they trade up. The other thing that it says, no matter what they do in the draft, or whether they trade, whether they stay pat or whatever, that they're going to keep trying to build the trenches, keep trying to build depth. I think it's important that Brad that he avoid some mad scientist picks. I mean, he has not drafted well in the second, third rounds. I mean, Josh Paschal turned out to be a complete waste of time and money. Vaki, I mean, drafting a guy who was a college safety and a good one at Utah and converting him to running back. I think he's at 18 carries in 2 years. I look at that wasted draft pick. Giovanni Manu is one of the guys that I'm the most critical of. I understand the intangibles. I understand, what the stat sheet says, what his numbers say, what his physical ability might be. The guy's got to perform in preseason this year, or I think he's going to get cut. Remember, Dan Campbell is a protege of Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells used to say that you keep a guy through his third training camp. If in that third training camp he does not perform and make the team, he's gone. And I think that's what Dan Campbell's going to do. So Giovanni Manu will be interesting. Watch in preseason how he's doing, if he's not developing. And if he develops, again, apologies. We know that Brad keeps receipts, and I have no problem saying, sorry, I was wrong. I want to be wrong, by the way, when I criticize this team. I want Brad and I want Dan, I want them to be super successful. I want Brad Holmes to have a statue of him outside the stadium. I want Dan Campbell to have a statue of him. I want to be biting kneecaps with the Detroit Lions for a long time. But, I think it's right to be critical at this point of some of those trades and some of those decisions. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if Manu develops. And I mean, either way, we're going to keep talking about it, and we're going to have fun here on Motown Exile. So I want to say thank you again for all of you for tuning in. I hope that you were able to enjoy this live stream episode of Motown Exile. Look for another one coming up in the near future. And also look out for our variety of shorts that I like to post from time to time on YouTube. Thanks again for the views. If you liked what you saw today, please smash that like button. And if you really liked what you saw, I would love if you would please subscribe. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers here on Motown Exile by April 1st. If we can do that, that will be a great thing, and we'll just keep growing and growing from there. So no matter where you're watching from today, I want to say thank you to listening and watching Motown Exile. My name's Ryan. We'll see you next time.